Level up your LA Kings experience with Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access and rewards. Enjoy great seats to the game in Section 103 along with Yamava Club access and parking included with your purchase. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings shop item at the game. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn perks on each purchase from the only leading ticket company with a rewards program. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings. Do you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
Welcome back, Kings fans, to another episode of All the Kings Men. Joining me today, Zach Dooley. How are you doing today, Zach?
Jesse, I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
Working a draft, it's like I likened it to someone of like the last time the Kings played a game was April. So last time it's like you're really like in that mode of like, you know, those long days. It's like you work out for the first time since April. And it's like you kind of feel it a little bit. Like last night, it was like my brain was just like mush by hour 13 of working in that day.
The funny thing is the draft could be handled totally differently and the end result would be nil. Like, if they didn't televise it, if they just held it somewhere and then revealed the results to the public at 1 p.m. on Saturday the 27th, the overall effect would be about the same. We'd go and read the things we have to read, and we'd find out about the players, and the fans would process the information, and everything would be a few hours behind. But generally speaking, what's the difference? But because it is a TV show, at one point it was the Kings had the 113th pick before they traded up to get 103rd. So at about 101 or 102, I looked at the clock and was like, well, I have time to step away and do something. And then I brought my phone with me and just sort of casually, as I was glancing at the phone, I saw, oh, they made a trade. And then ran back and was like, oh, and like, but for some reason I felt like I had to be, in the moment up to date, even though I just spent the next 40 minutes doing what I would have done anyway, which is reading about the guy they took at 103. Anyway, there's a lot of news happening over the last 3 days, whatever. We're recording this on Sunday, the 28th, which, by the way, I feel obligated to say is the greatest day on the calendar because we are as far away from the next draft as possible. Every day.
Jesse's favorite day.
It's one day closer to the next draft. But
it's like the doomsday countdown.
Yes,
Dwight's doomsday countdown.
But the first news that we got hit with that was relevant to the Kings was Brandt Clarke signing an extension. Midday Friday. 5 years, 7.4, right?
Yep, correct.
And so that is one piece of work done. It's another question off of the top 10 questions of the offseason answered.
Yep.
And it's, as Ken Holland alluded to in his press conference, it's all 6 major defensemen from last season under contract now for the next season.
And 5 of them already were.
Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, I guess I would say it kind of caught me by surprise. I mean, it always does, right? You're never like, I expect Brandt Clarke to sign on this day. Like, you can't really plan for that per se, but it certainly wasn't expecting it to come together, say an hour or so before the draft. I wasn't expecting it to be that contract either. But I think that I was pleasantly surprised on both fronts with how quickly it came together and what the contract looks like.
Yeah, it's funny. The funniest thing for me is who broke the news, which was the Empty Netters. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter.
It's funny, like I saw it after the fact.
Yeah.
And then, that was it. I hadn't seen it until like after, it was already kind
I
of
think
going
that
out.
was I think that was their first experience of like of getting the news out there. And of course they were very coy about it. They were like, they didn't
Sure.
say Brandt Clarke signs extension. It was a picture of Brandt Clarke and something that said the next 5 years, or whatever. People figured it out pretty quickly. And then,
Hmm.
I don't know, 3 minutes later, there was the official announcement.
Well,
5 years at
they
seven
actually
point.
had it about a half hour, 40 minutes before.
Oh, was
And
it that
that's what
far?
I'm
Okay.
talking about is
Okay.
like, it just didn't really gain the traction
Right.
that normally a piece of breaking news like that would. Like about 5 minutes before, I put out like, just, hey, keep your eye out for something. And then it seemed like news to the people who were responding to me,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting because 30 minutes before that, a fairly prominent like podcast had the news. I hadn't even seen it at
Right.
that point.
Well, and
Um,
I wonder how much of that going under the radar was just that they didn't say it.
maybe,
They
like,
were sort of obnoxiously coy about it. People said like, well,
sure. Yeah,
Clark, and
yeah.
they were, they gave like a little eyeball emoji, and like people
Hmm.
were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
is it good?" And
it
they were like,
was
"You're gonna like it." And I was like, "Oh, come on, just
it was
if
like
you're gonna do it,
intentionally, yeah, yeah.
yeah." So,
But
whatever.
well,
But
either or,
five
right?
years, seven point
He's
four, yeah. So I think it takes him 1 year past when he would have been an unrestricted free agent.
correct. Yeah, buys 1 year
Yeah.
of his unrestricted free agency.
So it's 7.4, which is a lot lower than I think it could have been.
Yes, I agree.
But it's also 5 years, which is shorter than it could. It could have been 8 years,
Yes.
but it's not. It's five at 7.4. So short term, it helps them out, I suppose, in that it gives them an extra million or two in cap space to work with.
It's just so interesting. Like I don't know about you. I just expected it to be more extreme. Like I expected it to be 2 years or 7 or 8, Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really think five, and maybe I should have. And five
Yeah.
is the perfect compromise, if you will, between the two. I just maybe overestimated what I thought both sides might think, which was like if I were Brandt Clarke, I would have really pushed for a 2 year deal and said like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to show you that I'm a 60, 70 point defenseman, that I'm a number one defenseman, and you're going to pay me like 1 and 2 years. And then I would think like the Kings might say like, yeah, we think you can be that player. We want to sign you now at a more manageable number. This
Right.
seems to be like a perfect middle, I guess, of like he gets his bag, right? Like there's nothing low
Yeah.
about 7.4 mil. And the Kings get him for 5 years, and that's a long, long time that he's here. And ideally it's the right fit, and he then signs another contract at another manageable age. I think he's 27, 28 when that ends.
Yeah. So, I mean, my takeaway from it is if I were his agent, if I were Brandt Clarke, I'd be very happy with my agent because he goes from, an entry level contract, well paid, but not insanely wealthy,
Sure. Yeah.
to essentially generational wealth on his second contract. Right?
Yeah.
Like unless
Yeah.
unless he is incredibly foolish with his money, over the next 5 years, he should come away from this contract with enough money to spend the rest of his life comfortably, depending on how he chooses to spend it. And he does so. The contract ends with him at 28 years old. If the cap continues to go up the way people are projecting it, and if he is even half the player he's expected to be, he will have another opportunity to sign
Yeah.
another contract that at that point should be 7 years long
Yep.
for however much money. Like he will he will double, triple, quadruple his wealth. So I mean,
He'll be an
I
eight
thought it was
figure per year player
yeah,
if he goes that way, right? Yeah.
right. So I thought a really good job by his agent, and it's one of those things where, like, in my mind, the Kings have to operate on two timelines, and this contract is great for the first timeline, and to be determined on the second timeline.
What are the two timelines?
So the first timeline is Ken Holland, Peter Laviolette, Artemi Panarin, Drew Doughty timeline, which is
Mm-hmm.
a year, two, maybe three. Who knows? And the second timeline is the post Ken Holland, post Peter Laviolette world, and we don't have any idea
yeah.
what that will look like, right? Like, who knows? We'll worry about. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
It's funny because I was actually thinking the exact same thing, except I think this contract, he's a player who works in both timelines. Like if the LA Kings take a direction of going younger at some point,
Mhm.
like he's younger, and then he's under contract. And I think he's on the
Yes.
same timeline as Mikey Anderson. I think he's 1 year longer than Quinton Byfield.
Yeah.
Um, Alex Laferriere not on that timeline because he signed the bridge, but his I don't what team control is still on that time. So like I would have thought that's why I liked it. It was kind of like, okay, like if things go one way, this contract works. If things go the other way, it still kind of works.
Yeah, I just mean like we don't know what the league, the team, like we have no idea what the summer of 2031 when this contract ends is going to look like. We have no idea what the summer of 2030 is going to look like. So when I say two timelines, I just mean like there's this wall somewhere in the future where the Kings, uh, just fundamentally are different.
Hmm.
And we have no idea when or what those conditions will be like, and it's the same thing with Byfield's contract, right? Like Byfield's contract is up in 2020, summer of 29. He's
Okay,
got
so he's 2 years
yeah, he's
shy
got
of.
three years left, same as Fiala, and you just go like, okay, they could have locked Byfield up for an extra 2 years, 3 years when he signed his contract. I don't even remember.
Did he
Um,
sign a 5 year or a
I
six
feel like
year?
he signed a 5 year, but I could be wrong about that. And
Okay,
and Clark signs a
yeah,
5 year. Could have been 8, but now it'll be whatever. And so it's like
yeah.
you could have saved maybe you would have spent a little bit more today to save yourself some hassle and money 8 years in the future. But we're not. The organization is clearly not focused on 8 years in the future. So from
I
that
also don't
perspective,
think
the
they would
Clark.
have saved a little bit today. I think they save a lot today.
I mean,
I think
depends
that
on
if,
what
if
you
you're
consider a little or a lot. Like who knows?
yeah, I think I think if Brandt Clarke was looking at an 8 year deal, I
Mhm.
think he is pushing 8 figures per year
Okay. I would, yeah, all right.
signed this
I
year.
wouldn't have thought it was that much, but sure, yeah.
Personally,
I mean, it's
I
it's it's considerable either way, right? Like,
from the player side, I think that
yeah,
would have been, the
yeah.
ask would have been in that range.
So I mean, you save yourself a good chunk of money, cap space today,
Hmm.
and you'll cross the bridge of whether or not he has leverage,
Yeah,
and everything down the road. And we'll come back to this because I do want to talk about it because I had a question that I wanted to ask Ken Holland about it, and it slipped my mind because of some other stuff that Ken Holland said. Um,
sure.
so that was the Brandt Clarke extension. So that's done. Tidy work by the organization. And that brings us to the first round of the draft. And again, we can talk about this later, but the Kings entered the draft with 9 picks. And I just assumed that they would not make all 9. I don't know why. Um, at one point, they had 11 picks. They traded down twice to get to 11. They traded up once that shrunk their total number to 10, but then they traded back
Yeah,
into the seventh round to make it 11.
yeah.
They wind up with 11 picks. It was just a ton of picks.
It's a lot of
Um,
picks.
but in the first round, they take Elton Hermanson. I'm trying to train myself to put the emphasis on man or Hermanson, whatever, Elton Hermanson. Um, which, to the best of my knowledge, is the first Elton that's ever been drafted. I'm not going to go through 100 years or 40 years of drafts to verify that, but AI says he's the first player named Elton to ever be drafted, and good enough for me.
And AI's really been wrong.
Yeah, and listen, obviously we have no idea. We'll have to wait and see how this guy plays out. But the one thing that I came away with after watching a ton of highlight clips of him, in a incredibly short period of time, is that he reminds me of Tyler Madden in that when he scores, he is not shy to celebrate.
Hmm.
That's it. That's my high.
That's all you got, huh?
That's my highbrow analysis. I saw him do the
Um,
Archer the Kempe one that he's done. I've seen him score a Michigan goal. Lots of fist bumps. Lots of are you not entertained gestures to the crowd. Like he doesn't lack for confidence.
that is the perfect you analysis, right?
I mean, listen, I've
Like
had
it really is. Just
48
because,
hours
like,
to process, or less than 48 hours to
but
process
like
this
most
guy.
people would watch a compilation of this guy scoring a lot of goals and would say
Yeah.
like, oh, he scores a lot of goals, and then you would ignore all the goals and say, oh, he did an Archer celebration.
Well, one of the highlight clips I saw, half of the plays were assists. So I just thought,
Sure.
like, okay, when he does score, I mean, the real takeaway is when he scored the Michigan goal. I feel like a lot of Michigan goal highlights, you see a player is behind the net and it occurs to them while they're behind the net, oh, my best option here is to attempt to score that way.
Mhm.
His goal that he scored, I think it was in the World Juniors or Holinka Gretzky, I'm not sure which international tournament it was. He takes the puck and you can see him drift through the neutral zone, and by the time he leaves the left face-off dot, I think he's
Mhm.
already got it in his head
He knows
that
what
he's going to
doing.
curl around
Yeah.
the net and try one, which
Yeah.
is just, like I said, he doesn't lack for confidence. It's pretty
'Cause
bold.
you're right,
And he pulled it off.
And he scored. Yeah. There's the ones
Yeah.
right where they're stationary, and then there's the ones where the guys are in motion, and it's
In
pretty
stride,
clear, like
yeah.
in stride is like,
Yeah.
okay, you're thinking this before you get
Mhm.
to that point. It's not like, okay, I'm blocked. Let's try something here.
Right. Yeah. You just sort of like
this is a
stick handling around in Gretzky's office and realize, oh,
Sure.
I can pick it up and
maybe this works for me here.
Yeah.
That
But
is
no,
not that.
he was just like, no, I got this. I've
Yeah.
got, a couple lengths on my, on the I don't even know if anybody was covering him. And he
Totally.
just flies behind the net and roofs it. So
Look, all of those things are exciting. Like
Yeah.
you and I talked about it with Chris Peters. We talked about it when we were assessing the prospect pool. Like the Kings don't have those kind of players in the pool right now.
no.
They add one. You need more than one, but they added one. Like this guy probably profiles as like the top offensive option in the pool with a lot of different skills offensively. And I think that's just the exciting part for me is like this guy can do all these things offensively, and he adds an option that I don't think the Kings really had at that age range.
Yeah, my only fear is, talking to Will Scouch about him, and you could sort of see it in some of the highlights I watched. And I've talked to people about players in the CHL who sometimes exhibit this quality where if he's on a team and his team is struggling to score, because he comes from a background where he's been the best player for so long,
Yeah.
sometimes he sort of takes it on his own shoulders and is like, okay, if I don't score, we're not going to score.
Yeah.
And that can get a little puck hoggy. That's my word, not Will Scouch's word.
Sure. I know what you're talking about though. And
Yeah.
it's
But,
almost like
listen, he's an
you
18-year-old.
get hero plays. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing hero puck a little bit.
And it's not puck hogging in a selfish way. It's puck hogging in a
No,
like,
exactly.
this isn't working. I'm going to make it work way.
Yes.
And that happens a lot in the CHL.
And you would hope at least that as you advance through the ranks, as the talent around you improves collectively, you realize it and you realize, oh, I don't have to be. And listen, I saw him make just as many slick passes. And we'll talk about some of the other players they drafted as well, because it's funny. Like I'm reading some of the descriptions of these players, and then I'm watching the highlight reels, and I'm like, well, I get it. Highlights are just highlights, right? So, if you watch Matt Green's
highlights for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you watch Matt Green's highlight reel, you'd come away thinking Matt Green was an offensive dynamo because, of course, you're just watching the offensive successful plays. But
yeah,
all the same, you just like, wow, all right, well, guy looks good. Anyway, that was the first round. Then came the press conference with Ken Holland, and we'll backtrack now and talk about the Brandt Clarke thing, because I had two questions that I wanted to ask Ken Holland about Brandt Clarke. I got one of them out. And then before I had a chance to raise my hand and ask the second one, he dropped the Drew Doughty bombshell.
Yeah.
So that sort of derailed my thought process and a lot of other people's, I suspect. So the question I didn't ask was, is there any trade protection?
I believe there's a partial no move in year 5. I read on Puckpedia that was reported. Could confirm that right now.
I've checked and I haven't seen it updated. And the only reason I think it matters, like it doesn't matter short term.
There's a 10-team no trade list in year 5. That is it.
Okay.
Which is, I think, the same as Quinton.
That's good, because part of my fear was that they gave him a contract that gives him all of the leverage. Like if he had a no move clause in the final year, then you'd go, okay, he has all of the negotiating power
Yeah.
And
When
that
you
would
get
have
to that
been
point. Yeah.
yes, yeah, and like I said, that's down the road. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. But at least with a 10 team, then you can go, okay, you're not going to wind up in a not that it's exactly the same situation, but you're not going to wind up in a Brady Kachuk situation where the guy can say,
Exactly. I
I'm
mean,
not
we're seeing
signing,
it.
trade,
Yeah,
trade me
exactly.
to who I want to sign with, or your
It's
stuff.
not a 3-team list. It
Right.
is a 22 team or maybe more team list
Yeah.
as the league expands. But
And
yeah,
who maybe he's willing to waive if the situation. So that's good.
totally.
So but as I said, that went out the window. I totally lost my train of thought. It wasn't until like an hour and a half later that I went, oh shoot, I meant to ask about trade protection.
Well, at least you got
Because
the answer.
yes, yeah, and because and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. So just to be clear, Ken Holland said that they're not going to sign Drew Doughty to an extension this summer. Maybe they may leave it till next summer, or they may sign one in the midst of this coming season, depending on how everything plays out. I don't think there's anything all that shocking about that news. I don't think there's anything all that upsetting, or I just was surprised to hear it
Yeah.
so plainly stated at a moment where ostensibly we were there to talk about the first round draft pick and Brandt Clarke.
It
And
felt so casually stated.
yes,
And
at
that
a
is what
weird
threw
time.
me.
Yeah,
And
at
that
a
is what
time I
threw me
wasn't
as well.
expecting it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, oh, okay,
Yes. And that is why it was so jarring to me, I think,
mm-hmm.
is just how casually it came out. It was like, oh, like he was
If he had
saying it
said
like
it
he has said that
Monday,
100 times.
right,
And it was
or if
like,
he had
but
said
we
it
were all like,
Wednesday,
what?
yeah, if he had said it
Yeah.
Wednesday after free agency, right? Because I'm assuming we'll speak to him at some point. After
Probably
the
end of this week.
first
Yeah.
day or second
Maybe.
day of free agency. If
Yeah.
he had sort of snuck it in there, I'd have been like, okay, interesting.
That
That
makes
helps
sense.
answer
Yeah.
some questions about the financial landscape, and like, okay, I
Hmm.
get it, and whatever. We're moving
Yep.
forward.
Yep.
For it to drop Friday night after the first round of the draft, yeah, and like you said, very casually, very matter of factly and then
Yeah.
the rest of the press conference was not about. I mean, I don't know that there would have been much to say. We took Elton Hermanson,
There were a couple quotes
moving
about Elton
on,
Hermanson and
yeah,
yeah.
and I mean everything I would have asked that would have been relevant to the draft would have waited till talking to Mark Yannetti on Saturday anyway.
Hmm.
But like I said, I had other questions about the Brandt Clarke signing, and once the Drew Doughty news broke, then that sort of shifted the focus on the Ken Holland availability completely. So
Definitely did. It's interesting, like for how shocking the news was, it to me makes sense. I don't know where you land on it, but it's like I interpreted it as like the Kings are Drew Doughty's new deal, if he signs one, would
yeah,
start 27, 28. So you have to see who Drew Doughty is in 2027. Why would you
yeah,
extend 2026 Drew Doughty when you're actually paying 2027 Drew Doughty?
right. Well, and Ken
Like,
Holland said he didn't want to overpay him, he didn't want to underpay him,
yeah.
which I
And he
thought was
made
an
it very
interesting.
clear that he is not going to trade him unless Drew wants a trade.
Yeah, what did he say? He said Drew tried to give him his no trade list, and Ken Holland told him,
Don't
don't
buck.
don't give
Yeah.
me that."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The Drew Doughty situation and the Brandt Clarke contract and a number of other moves and things that the Kings have said really confirmed to me, like I said earlier, that the two timeline. Like
Hmm.
in Edmonton, Ken Holland used a phrase when he was the general manager of the Oilers. He said, "I don't invest in green bananas," which is a great, it's a wonderful.
That's a
term
great
phrase.
phrase.
Um, and so everything that he has done in the last whatever month, 2 months, to me suggests, yeah, this is not about 2029, 2030. This is about 2026, 27, and 2027, 28. And every decision we make is going to be now focused. There's going to be very little consideration
Mhm.
for, whoever the next general manager is. Good luck, everybody. Like, that's their problem. Ken Holland is doing Ken Holland things, and
Now, I
yeah,
agree to an extent, but Ken Holland has also added, what, 4 or 5 draft picks more than he inherited,
absolutely. For
including
sure.
3 seconds, I think.
Yeah,
Like, You are right. I think you're actually completely right. But I don't think that it has been a reckless
No,
three
I don't mean to
months.
suggest it reckless. I just mean like we're optimizing the now. We're prioritizing the now, I should say, not optimizing.
Correct. Yeah.
Prioritizing the now,
Yes.
which makes sense. I mean, that's the only reason it wouldn't make sense is, and I was suggesting this to somebody because somebody was saying like, "Oh, it's so nice to see Ken Holland, you know, conceptualizing what the future of this franchise will look like with the draft." And I was like, I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently. We can get into round 2 through 7. I didn't get the sense that there was any sort of through line on the draft picks. I felt like for 11 draft picks, I feel like they got one of everything.
I do have a little insight, which was that
Yeah.
Ken Holland, number one, really, I think, empowers Mark Yannetti and that staff who specialize in that to do what they feel is best. But I think his overall guidance, from what I've gathered, is he sees what the Kings prospect pool is and said that we need more swings. He isn't saying we need player A, B, and C, but he said he looks at the pool. He understands. Mark, he talks about the success percentages of draft picks in certain rounds. We both know that it is low, even for the best of teams. Ken Holland's philosophy is like, pick a bunch of guys. It just increases your chances.
Right. So I guess that's sort of what I'm getting at. Whereas, you and I were talking about it last night where there were a couple of years where they took 4 players.
Yeah.
And they started those years with, I think one year they had 7 picks and traded up a bunch of times to wind up with 4 picks. And I don't remember how many they had the other year, but like they were very specific.
There's 4s, 5s, 6s. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas this year it felt like, and like I said, we can get into the rounds 2 through 7 now. Lefebvre feels like a swing, as you said. Adam Gaulier, right shot defenseman, doesn't at all fit the mold. Well, I shouldn't say doesn't at all, but doesn't seem to fit the mold of King's right shot defenseman in the past.
And I think that strategy changed.
Yes,
2-3 years ago. So,
but now it feels way more pronounced now, right? Where
there is no mold, is what I would say.
I don't remember how many defensemen they wound up taking in this draft, but I would say only 1 or 2.
They took 4. I mean, there is no mold. That's the thing. Like that's 3 years ago's narrative.
So Blake Zielinski, I'm not entirely sure what to make of him. Ribkin, the goalie, they add a goalie to an already deep goalie pipeline. They move up for Vandenberg, which. Right. What's that? Yeah, like, I wanted to ask Yannetti about Vandenberg, but Mark Yannetti is so loquacious that the media availability did not allow for another question to be asked. So that's fine.
And we'll get the chance, right?
Yes, exactly. But I mean, the question I wanted to ask about Vandenberg was they were at 113.
Mm-hmm.
They moved up to 103 specifically to take Vandenberg. So the question I have is, where did they have Vandenberg on their list that they realized at 103, hey, he's still available. Let's move up to get him.
There was a tier break. I can only, I guess, give a little bit, but that's what I got was there was a break after him. So it was, you know how it is with the Kings. It's the tiers. It's not usually, like you said, trading up for one guy. It's trading up for a tier. I think in this case, that was the mix, was like the tier was expiring. This guy was in it with a grade above that pick. So they said, like, if we don't get this guy, we're now dropping multiple tiers. And then we're like, we're no longer happy with that, the value of who we'd get at 130. Like I think the alternative would have been, if they didn't do that, they probably would have moved back at 113.
Right. Well, and Mark and Yannetti talked about having an option to move down in the 4th. I think
yes.
Said, right?
Yes. I think, and I don't know 100%, but I think that's kind of where it was at. Yeah.
So Vandenberg at 103, then Verdi Svensk, a defenseman, left shot defenseman who doesn't fit the profile. Again, the profile doesn't exist, but I'm going to keep referring back to it. My favorite so far of the draft is Gio Pantelis,
the Greek god.
Right shot defenseman. I really like him. Alex Kostov in the 6th. Now, this is what is interesting. I don't remember who is 19 They had picked one 19-year-old. Of the names I already mentioned, I don't remember if it's
Liam
Zelensky.
Lefebvre is
Is Lefebvre
19.
19? Okay, so Lefebvre is
Talking
19.
age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kostov
yeah,
is
yeah.
20.
Kostov is 20, just turned
That
20.
that surprised me. That this is his third year of draft eligibility, so that's like pretty
Hmm.
fascinating to me. I don't
Yep.
remember the last time the Kings drafted a 20-year-old. I'm sure it's probably much more recently than I'm thinking, but
I think it was Matt Roy.
okay.
Uh, Tanner Pearson for sure.
I thought
But
Tanner Pearson was 19, but regardless, like it
I
happens.
mean,
It's just rare.
this guy turned 20 like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I guess what
But but
his
yeah,
third trip in the draft is really the
Tanner Pearson for sure was third year draft eligible.
okay,
Um, Only because Yank said it when
right?
in one of the times we talked to him. I don't know about Matt Roy, but
Yeah.
it's no matter how you shake it, it's unique.
I mean, if it was Tanner Pearson, that's 12 years ago.
That's a long time, right? Like
If
that
it's
was he
Matt
was what
Roy, that's
12,
10 years ago ish,
10
something like
years
that.
ago. Yeah, it's a long time.
And then Tobias Creston, is in
Hmm.
the seventh round, who is interesting because he plays in Sweden, but I'm assuming he's German, but he's listed as German / Czech, so I don't know if he's got one parent. I don't know. It's
Oh,
just a
potentially, and then plays in
minor
a
detail.
third country of them.
Yeah, yes, that plays in Sweden. And
Yeah.
then another sort of mysterious choice. They trade into the seventh round for 233rd pick, but they made the trade when the draft was at 220-ish, 223. I mean, like, they didn't trade into the seventh at 233 or 234.
Hmm.
They traded in with 12 or 13 picks left in the draft. Which
Oftentimes, I've seen situations where like another team, Montreal also, I believe, had like two picks in a row. I think they had the last two picks
yeah,
and like three picks in like at the end. I think could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think oftentimes teams are just trying to get rid of them. Like their list has gone,
what I
and if
assumed had
they're
happened, I assumed that this happened, and Yannetti did not confirm it in his post draft presser. I assumed that they had wanted to invite him to camp, had discovered that he had agreed to go to
yeah,
another
fair.
team's camp, and they were like, okay, well, the only way to prevent him from going to that team's camp and to come to King's camp would be to draft him, because they have had situations like that
Mm,
in the past. I don't remember which player specifically, but
yeah, no, for
they have
sure.
mentioned that is a
Dustin
way.
Wolf. Dustin Wolf
Right,
was
they
that
was
guy.
going to come to yeah.
Yeah,
So, but it didn't sound like that when Mark spoke to the media. It sounded like they genuinely wanted to
yeah.
draft him.
Well, Montreal had 221, 223, and 224.
Hmm. Okay.
So I wonder if it was like, hey, it's a seventh for a seventh. The Kings list had multiple names on it, and Montreal's had few. I don't
Yeah.
know. A lot of your
It,
situation's plausible for sure. If they like, hey, like we're trying to get this guy at our camp, we like him, maybe we
yeah.
just pick him.
I mean, it's one of the funnier things about the draft, because Mark also said in his post draft availability, if it turns out they really want a seventh rounder next year,
You just do the same thing.
yeah, you can get one. And I was like, okay, well then what are we doing? Like, I don't get it, but whatever. So anyway,
But I mean,
those are the 11
what
picks.
I mean, I just want to say one thing, which is that
Hmm.
I have never heard a dude who seems to be more liked by the Kings than this Liam Lefebvre individual.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I've had so many people be like, this guy was like, he was so highly thought of by like several scouts.
he's the one
And
from
it doesn't mean he's
Chicoutimi,
going to
right?
be Chicoutimi, overage player. Yannetti
Right.
had a long quote on him where he talks about like the injury he had last year. And it was like, okay, when we looked at him as a 19-year-old, it was like, oh, things kind of come together when you do more, have that extra year of research. It was just like hell or high water. This guy was getting picked by
Yeah.
the Kings. Like
The
46,
reason I
49, he
mentioned
was
yeah
getting picked.
the reason I mentioned Chicoutimi is that that team won the QMJHL tournament
Yeah.
and then played in the Memorial Cup. So again, I'm not sure how important uh winners / captains are, but
Hmm.
better to have them than not would be my position.
I would think so, right?
Yeah.
It's not a
So
reason enough to pick a guy, but if it's like, I can't imagine
yeah.
it hurts you. to
No,
have
I
those
mean, well,
had the pedigree, right?
I don't think it can hurt. So,
Yeah.
if nothing else, the guy has played on big stages and in
Yeah, true.
important moments. But yeah, 6'3", 203 pounds, Liam Lefebvre, right shot center, totally. And I knew in the moment that it was a coincidence, but I did find it sort of interesting. The first 4 picks the team made, Hermanson, Lefebvre, Golier, and Zielinski, were all right
Hmm.
shot skaters, and then they draft Igor
Mm,
Rybkin, who is a right side goalie, which I
that is
thought was
funny.
sort
That
of
is funny.
like total coincidence, not important in any way, shape, or form, but
Yeah,
just like, okay, just that's what I noticed in the first 5 picks, and then the
that's
Vandenberg
funny.
pick.
I didn't even notice it till you said it right now.
I only noticed it because Lefebvre is a right shot center, which I took note of because the Kings notoriously have not had a ton of those recently.
Yeah,
And
only the
then
ones they've moved there.
yeah, and then because the Hermanson pick had been talked about as he's a Swedish player who likes to play his off wing. So
Hmm.
he likes to play on the left side, but he's a right shot. So of course, all of the highlights are of him on the left side, right shot.
Him
So I
on the
was
left
like, oh,
side. Yeah.
okay, tracking that, and then Adam Golier, because he's a right shot defenseman, but not in the Sean Dursey, Sean Walker, Brandt Clarke, style.
Hmm.
That clicked, and then when Blake Zielinski was a right shot, all of a sudden I just went, oh, they're all right. They're all right shots. That's
And then
bizarre.
the
And
later rounds, there was more of a split, right? Because
yeah,
Kostev, I think, is a right shot, and your guy, I think, is a right shot.
yeah. So
They had the
Vandenberg's a
young
left,
guy.
Svensk is a
Yep.
left,
Svensk is
Pantelis
a
is a
left.
right, Kostov is a right,
Yeah,
Creston is a right, and Ambrosio's a left. So
is a left. Okay, so a
yeah,
little more, but that is a. I mean, if you're looking for little things that are
yeah. And I mean,
more right
it's
shots in
funny.
there.
Not only we all know that the likelihood of any of these players making it and having an impressive career, right? Like statistically speaking, is low. But add
Hmm.
into that the other wrinkle of like the likelihood of them having the career with the team that drafted them.
Hmm.
When I talked to Mark Yannetti a few weeks ago, and we sort of dwelt a little bit too long on Jacob Middleton, who was a 7th round
Yeah,
pick for the Kings, but was on
for the
his
Kings. Yeah.
third or fourth NHL team by the time he really established himself as a regular NHL player. You got guys like Johnny Brodzinski, Michael
Yeah.
Amadio. There's all sorts of examples
Hmm.
of, or even like on the Kings, you have Trevor Moore, right, who was drafted by Toronto, or was
Hmm.
he not drafted at all? Now that I think about it,
He might have been a UDFA, but I
yeah,
don't. I don't. I don't know. But there are guys like that all around. Who
yeah.
are like
Sorry, Trevor Moore was not
successful
drafted.
picks.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. So just throwing that out there, that like yes, they have 11 picks. Yes, it felt like there was one of everything. And who knows? Like for example, they take Igor Rybkin, 6 foot. What was he? 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". Sorry, six foot
He's
seven, 207 pound
6'7", I
goalie.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. Zach and I are both doing the 6'7" hand motion for everybody listening at home. Like the goalie pipeline now is beyond deep.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that Rybkin will be a star for the Kings, but I also never expected Jonathan Quick would be a star for the Kings. So who knows?
And then at the same time, too, like you look at the current pipeline, and I mean, it's by far the deepest area of the pool, but there is an age gap, right? Like
Yep.
Rybkin, the Kings took Rimpinen last year, but he was a second time through the draft guy. So he's George's year, Slukinski 1 year older. So there is like there is a breakdown, right? There's a year in the middle that's
Yeah.
empty. So you do get 18 gap, 20, 21. I think that maybe that's lessons learned. He kind of talked about that when you guys
Yeah.
talked on All the Kings Men a couple weeks ago. Like this happened with the Kings where they had Jonathan Quick and the pipeline dipped so deeply that there were no options at one point, right?
Yeah.
Like because they had Bernier, they had Jones in there. They traded those guys away because they had an established starter, and then they almost got away from having these younger kids in there, or certain ones didn't work out. But now they have way more options, and your pipeline's deep, but what if the Kings trade somebody? What if the Kings make a bigger move and have to include one of their blue chip goalies? Then you don't have two, you only have one.
Talking to Mark Yannetti, or I should say, watching other people react to other people talk to Mark Yannetti is a horrible lesson in humility, because he tells the Frederik Andersen story, I think, every time he talks to anybody.
Sure.
It's like the first time I heard the story that the Kings were looking to draft Frederik Andersen back in whatever year it was. And Frederik Andersen told them, I won't come to your, don't draft me. You already have Jonathan Quick and Bernier and Jones and the whole thing. Like, I've heard that story a number of times. He told the story when he spoke to me a month ago. And yet I'm seeing people post on social media like, oh, Mark Yannetti just told the story about Frederik Andersen. And I'm like, yeah, he's been telling that story for years.
Right.
If you don't know that story.
Frederik Andersen was drafted 12 years ago.
Like, if you don't know the Frederik Andersen story at this point,
right.
You're just not paying attention, which is fine. I get it. I pay closer attention to this sort of thing than most people. But yeah, Frederik Andersen was drafted in 2012. Actually, first in 2010, then again in 2012. So
that also has to be the most intellectual 20-year-old kid that they've ever talked to, right? What kid of that age is doing that type of in-depth research? Maybe because he was twice through the draft and maybe was further ahead, maybe he was closer. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
that feels
interestingly enough, I had a conversation with Cameron Gauntz a while back about what it was like going through the draft, because he and his brother both went through it. And we actually spoke. Yeah. Actually, I talked to Cameron Gauntz's dad. And Cameron Gauntz's dad was doing deep dives on every team's blue line. And then sending the information to, Cameron said, he was not paying, he didn't care. He didn't know. He was excited.
He just wanted to get picked. Yeah.
But his dad wanted to make sure that if he went to a team, they had a spot for a guy like him. And, how many blocks were there in his way for his career. So it's who knows? Maybe Frederik Andersen's agent, maybe his dad, who knows? But yeah, good for Andersen and good for his agent to know what was best for them, I guess.
And I guess you'd rather know it than get into a Kevin Hayes, Adam Fox type situation, right? Where a guy won't sign with you.
Right. And,
but you don't realize it till they're, a junior in college.
And, to be fair, Andersen was drafted by the Hurricanes in the 7th round in 2010.
Yeah.
Re-entered the draft 2 years later after presumably not signing with Carolina.
Probably because they had Cam Ward and who knows what else, but yeah.
Yeah, and then, winds up playing for Anaheim for 3 years, winds up in Toronto for a long time, and then, of course, ultimately, serendipitously...
circles his way back to Carolina.
Winds back to Carolina.
Now, that's funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's sort of a perfect example of what I was talking about, right? The Kings make 11 picks.
Totally.
Who knows? Maybe Alex Kostov signs with some other team, then is traded, then eventually winds up on the Kings 15 years from now. Who knows, right?
Here's a part of the Frederik Andersen story that is just clicking with me. Why did he go back through the draft? And why do other guys not go back through the draft? Why do they become free agents at a certain point?
Yeah, well, especially since as a 7th round pick, I mean, I don't know the story off the top of my head, but I mean, he was 187th overall in the 7th round of the 2010 NHL Entry Draft. Obviously, he didn't sign with Carolina. But yeah, why would he have had the confidence to go back in? I don't know. Maybe he had an incredible season.
Was he forced back in?
I don't know.
How do you?
I don't know what the rules were back then. I don't know. He was playing.
If you
in
want
Denmark.
a different, if you want a different angle on the Frederik Andersen, that's the question I'd ask. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I do not know.
Huh?
But as I said, Mark Yannetti has told that story a million times. So, were there any players? I mean, obviously, we haven't even watched Dev Camp yet. But any players that you said Lefebvre is the one that stuck out to you.
He stuck out to me from what I heard. Look, I don't know how much of these games you watch. I watch very few. I rely a lot more on
I watch
talking to people and reading.
Memorial Cup,
yeah. The defenseman Svensk stands out to me. He has that elite trait, which is his skating. as a undersized defenseman, I like that the Kings added a player like that. Not to suggest that he is Lane Hudson for your, conversation
Right.
with Yannetti, but the Kings, and I know that they missed out on a couple guys who had that mold, who they liked, who were more of that, who played that style of game. There's a long way between doing that in Finland juniors and doing that in the NHL, but it's like, it's exciting to see that kind of guy because there aren't a ton of guys like that in the system. So I want to see what that skating looks like. Like, he's a good skater, and I'm using air quotes, could mean so many things. I want to watch what he looks like when he skates. Is it like his edges are unbelievable? He'll win every, blue line to blue line race. He'll win a full ice sprint race. Like, what does that mean? I want to see, kind of what that looks like and what it looks like when he has the puck on his stick.
Without proper context, Verdi Svensk, I'm reading, has elite skating with fluid edges, separation speed, and dynamic transition. So,
because it's like Brandt Clarke is a good skater on his edges. He moves laterally extremely well. He is not a fast straight line skater.
Right.
Right. But then you have other guys who are unbelievable straight line skaters. And it's like, there's so many ways you could talk about it. I'm so interested he interests me. I want to see kind of what his game's about.
There are a couple players taken in the draft by the Kings that, and again, it's unfair because highlight packages are highlight packages.
Yeah.
But there's a couple players where I'm reading about them and it's like, okay, this player has no offensive upside, or not no offensive upside, but needs to work on his offensive upside. Not, is known for I think Gio Pantelis, for example. Strengths: loves to use his size and play physically. Offensive game is developed very well from last season. Playmaking ability with a strong vision and IQ. Great defensive play, gap control, and stick work. Under construction improvements to make. Gets overly aggressive physically periodically while having solid speed. He could use some work with the aspect of his game. So I'm hearing all that, and yes, they talk about his offensive game, but I'm thinking okay, loves to use his size and play physically. Gets overly aggressive physically periodically. I would not think of a slick puck-moving player.
No.
Then I'm watching the highlight reel, and I'm like, this dude is setting up one-timers. I'm like, every play is him deftly moving the puck around the zone.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, it says playmaking ability with strong vision and IQ, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm seeing that all over the place. I'm not seeing any of this physical, size and physicality.
His evaluations are crazy to me because I've seen and read the same things you did, but I've seen a lot of conflictings on him. Like, some people are like, this guy is great offensively, and some guys are like, this guy is great defense. It's like, seems like, a vastly different array of opinions depending on who's watching.
All I saw from the highlight plays was like, wow. Hockey IQ and vision through the roof. I don't know what everybody else is talking about with the rest of it. And 6'2", 214 pounds.
Can't wait for to get he looks great at development camp.
Yes, well, yeah.
Lines of
but the biggest takeaway I think for me from this draft was because I spoke to Mark Yannetti a month before the draft, and because we had the conversation about Lane Hudson, and because we talked about the difficulty in projecting size.
Yeah, that was also really interesting.
Like, just physically, because there are players, as much as it may hurt everybody's feelings, and I thank God Mark Yannetti brought his name up and I didn't have to, because Tyler Madden is a perfect example. Tyler Madden's a good hockey player. Yeah. Tyler Madden's too small.
You put his player into the body they thought they were going to get, right?
Yeah.
He's on the team right now.
For whatever reason, and I don't know what those reasons are, he was not able to be a Blake Lizotte or a Lane Hudson. Right, and I use those two players specifically because I think they're sort of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Like, Blake Lizotte, also undoubtedly a small player.
It never going to change.
Right. But Blake Lizotte, hustle, grit, tenacity, effort, whatever.
Off
Blake
charts.
Lizotte's calling card was not his offensive ability, though he has some. But that's
a lot more than he gets credit for,
Yeah, but that's not how he's sticking in the league.
Totally.
Lane Hudson, small player, but, is Lane Hudson easily knocked off the puck? Well, I don't know, because it doesn't seem to happen that often. So
because no
whether
one
it's
can do it. Yeah.
yeah, whether it's as simple as speed or evasiveness, whatever it is, there are players, and it's hard to sort of concede sometimes, but there are players who are just too small, right? Who just never
Yep.
can find a way to excel beyond their physical limitations. So when you get a
Hmm.
player, you know, who is 6'2", 214 pounds already, then you can say, okay, well, we can figure the rest of it out later.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but it's, you know, I think Hermanson is what, 6'1" or something like that.
Yeah. I think not small, not huge
Yeah.
kind of guy.
But,
Yeah.
you know, Lucas Ambrosio, 6'4", 190 pounds. I feel like, okay, pretty confident that, you know, he's going to be his limitations won't be his physical size. Kostov, 6'4", 207
Right.
pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pantelis, 6'2", 214 pounds. Svensk,
Hmm.
6'1", 168 pounds. So you go, you know, like how much bigger can he really get? And it's, you know, like I don't know if other people could hear it, but I can hear the pain in evaluators' voices when they talk about these smaller players, because we've all, like, if you've watched this game for more than 4 years, you know that there are some guys who are just really good.
Right.
And, you know, at a junior level or at a local college or high school level or whatever, yeah, they'd probably dominate. You know, if they joined your beer
Yep.
league, they'd make everybody look stupid for the rest of their
Yep.
lives. But, you know, when you go up against Chris Pronger, you're going to
Hmm.
get murdered, and that's it. That's your that's your career.
The other part of the Hudson conversation that I found fascinating was how you can't overreact because then you've missed twice.
Yeah, right.
Because if you then start to say, oh, well, this guy hit here, we need to start placing these guys higher. Well, what if the guy that you place higher isn't the
Yeah,
special player? And it's the same exact thing if it's the 6'7" guy.
right.
Zdeno Chara was 6'7", 6'8", played in the league. What if he's the outlier, right? You can't just say, oh, this guy
Right.
worked, let's find guy. Like it has to be, they have to have it, the whole package.
Yeah.
And that's what's really fascinating.
And for every Blake Lizotte, there's a Curtis McDermott. And I
Yep.
say Curtis McDermott because Curtis McDermott,
Or Radko Gudas, or
yeah, but I mean, if you put Curtis McDermott's skill set in Blake Lizotte's body, that guy never sniffs the NHL.
no,
But Curtis McDermott figured out a way to use his size in the exact same way that Blake Lizotte figured out how to overcome his size.
yeah,
Like, so I
They both
feel
have
for evaluators.
physical limitations, right?
Yeah,
McDermott's are not the size; it's the skating, and Lazat's are the size. Like they both found ways to overcome those and play to their strengths, and they're both still in the league. How many years later? It's
yeah. So that's it. The Kings wind up taking 11 players, which now, I mean, looking at the prospect pool now, it's like it was sort of shrinking for a while, and now
yeah.
I don't know exactly. I think they have 28 if you include the two Russian kids. Well, 27, I guess, because
Looking at the development camp roster, there are 26 draft picks coming to development camp. Like that's a lot more than usual.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going down my list here. Some of these guys already have entry level contracts, but Brustevich, Woolley, Chihash, Lombardi, Dergachev, Shafigulin, Ribkin, Reeder, McMorrow, Harrington, Hovan, Rimpinen, Sparks, Conby, Sharp, Epperson, Golier, Svensk, Kostov, Zelinsky, Vanderberg, Hermanson, Kristen, Ambrosio, Lefebvre, Pantelis. Like that's a lot. It's a big pool.
Mm-hmm. It's a big pool.
And that doesn't include Carter George, Hampton Slakinski,
Terry Rimpinen.
Well, I said,
Or did you say him?
But like it doesn't include guys that Jacob Dvorak,
Sure, yeah,
like guys that will be on the reign, or at least have gone pro, I guess is what I should say.
Yeah, and like even guys
or
like
Grant
that, Grant Slukinski, Cohen Ziemer, and Angus Booth, and maybe not Angus Booth, but Kirill Kirsanov,
Atu Yamson, Francesco Pinelli just signed,
Martin Chromiak. Like, you're probably looking at now
30,
like
31
that's
guys.
Yeah, like 26 at development camp plus those 5-6 more, like over 30 guys, under 23 who are, prospects still. Like that's a much deeper pool than we've seen in a long time. At least just
And
raw numbers.
and it makes, I mean, obviously we'll find out on Monday morning, but in past years, development camp is what it is, right? As far as interest level.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
when there are more camp invitees, I find it less interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's a bunch of guys where you're like, all right, they're 24 years old, they played, they're just sort of like, they're here to fill out spots. You sort of go like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't need to pay attention to them. Maybe they have an interesting day. Maybe they make a good play. Maybe they look good during one drill. But like, you and I have forgotten more names from more development camps.
100%.
Like, you just go like, all right. But now you go like, okay, well, now they have, I don't know how many goalies they'll have in camp for development camp, but it might be
It'd be 4.
5. Okay, 4. Like, and all of them will be
all of, yep.
and so you go like, okay, that's interesting. And if you have 26 draft picks in camp, then you go like, all right, I know there's at least 2 or 3 invitees, but now those invitees aren't just, executives' kids getting the call to fill in a spot. They're not just guys from the Isobaron who get, a free trip to California to fill out a roster. Now it's like, okay, if you're invited to this camp, you're competitive. And so the whole thing just becomes more interesting. So development camp starts on Monday, runs through Thursday.
See what happens.
Yeah, we'll be there.
We'll be there. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view development camp.
I mean, listen, I feel the same way about development camp that I do about the draft, which is ultimately, if I'm being fully honest with myself, it's totally boring.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens at a time of the year where I haven't had anything to pay attention to from a Kings perspective for months.
Yeah.
So it's better than nothing.
Honestly, and that's a good development camp itself. I actually enjoy. What bothers me are the people who insist on tweeting it like it is a Stanley Cup playoff game. Like, this guy looks so good. It's like, you know what? Like, I was thinking about the other day, 4 development camp performances that stand out in my head over the years. And those 4 players have a combined 0 NHL games.
I can think of one, and it was Matt Luff. And
hey, he made it.
Yeah, but I mean, all due respect to Matt Luff and Meatball, what Kings fan cares about Matt Luff in the year of our Lord 2026? Like, no, he came through. He was here for a cup of coffee, and then he moved on.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that one, but he's had a better career than any of the players that I'm thinking.
If I remember correctly, he was a dev camp invite.
Yeah,
and I just remember saying,
I think he was. Yeah,
I was like, okay, that guy has a shot. That's interesting.
Yeah,
and then
he always had a shot.
Signed and whatever. But like that's it. That, like, of all the dev camps I've been to, that's the one that I remember. The rest of them are just sort of like, I mean, I held on to the roster I had from last year's dev camp because I had made some notes on it, and I think you had really liked Harrington, if I remember. But
I liked him because he played youth hockey in my area. I didn't watch him play.
But whoever the players were that we liked last year at Dev Camp, because I'm sure there were a few of them. Like, I remember Ryan Conmey, now that we're talking about it. I think I remember Ryan Conmey making an incredible move in a scrimmage a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if Ryan Conmey never signs an entry-level contract and disappears off of the Kings' radar, well, then so what about that one play? Like,
And in that development camp, he was by far the best player on the ice, right? But it was a development camp scrimmage.
Yeah. So like I said, if I'm truly honest with myself, and I wish more people were about the draft, because ultimately I get it. It's a TV show, but it's a boring TV show. It's so dull. And every year we do the same thing where everybody's like, oh man, the draft is so fun. Can't wait. And then Gary Bettman hits the trade alert button for the 18th time. And it's just letting you know that 2 teams are swapping picks in the 6th round, and everybody goes, "Oh, boo, boring!" And it's like, well, what did you think? That's what this is.
It is always so funny to see how on June 28th everyone's having those reactions, and then by June 1 next year, those same people are like, "This is the best time of the year."
Yeah.
And then on June 28th next year, they're going to say, that was so boring. They have to go back to X, Y, and Z. And then the cycle repeats itself every single year.
The crazy thing this year, is if you take the 2 weeks leading up to the draft, or even let's just say free agency, because if free agency day is boring, and it should be because there aren't that many big
It probably
names,
will be, yeah.
if you take the month leading up to it, and you just if you condensed everything that happened in the month leading up to July 1st and made all of those moves happen on one day, that would be an incredible day.
Yeah.
With all the trades and everything. But because it's spread out in a week where anticipation is built up for the draft, something happens on a Monday and we just sort of gloss over it because it's like, yeah, okay, that's great. But what about Dylan Larkin? What about the draft? What about, blah, 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 blah. Then we sort of forget about it. But if you took all of June and condensed it into one day and said like July 1st, everything that happened in June happened on July 1st, it'd be the most incredible July 1st anybody's ever had.
Probably ever, yeah.
but it'll go down as boring because people won't care.
But June 23rd was electric.
Right. But nobody cares because we had June 26th on the calendar and everybody somehow thought. So the whole thing is bizarre. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up because, like I said, mostly the real annoying part about the draft is it'll be 5, 6, 7, 8 years before we know how any of these picks
and that's
really
what it ultimately
graded.
Boils down to. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe one of these years we'll start looking back at previous drafts and evaluating. We'll look back at, I don't know, if it's 2026 now, maybe we should look at the Kings 2020 draft. And
at earliest, right?
Yeah, which I mean, just looking at it right now, just off the top of my head, Byfield hit, Grans, Faber, second round pick traded, but obviously a hit. Siemens Heivel never turned in anything, didn't sign an entry level contract. LaFerriere in the third round, got to be considered a hit. Marketing never turned in anything. Chromiak, work in progress. Meehan and Yamson still in the system, and Meehan not. So, I don't know.
And then to truly evalluate it, you'd have to look at it compared to the other teams.
Right, which I'm not going to do.
So yeah,
definitely.
The Kings drafted 3 bona fide NHL players in that draft from your list as of now. And
that's the thing, as of now. I mean,
as of now, that feels like a good draft. Like if you get 3, I feel like that's pretty good. But hey, I don't know.
One final thought, and I just feel like I have to get it off my chest. I'm as guilty of this as anybody, so just bear that in mind. The draft grading system is so silly. Like I was watching a YouTube video, and I have no idea who the kid was who made the video, but he looked like he was in his early 20s, if not late teens. And he's speaking very confidently, giving grades to all 32 teams. And I'm just, as I'm watching it, going like, okay, get to the Kings, skip to the Kings. So I skipped ahead to the Kings. He gave the Kings an A+. And I found myself going, yeah, A+. Meanwhile,
totally.
I have no idea who this kid is. Like he's, and whoever he is, I can guarantee you he doesn't have the time or energy to effectively be an expert on all 230 something picks, all 32 teams, what their needs are, how, like, on top of that, there's larger, broader philosophical questions about like what is the value of a 7-round draft anyway, right? Like when the hit percentage on the bottom 4 rounds of the draft are like 5-6%. What's the difference between an A+ and an F, right? Like who cares?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this kid gave the Kings an A+, and that put me in a good mood. And I was like, all right, A+, go Kings, good job. So whatever.
Yep. And that's all you can do, right? You can't predict 7 years out. So it is what it is. It doesn't really mean much.
And I was glad for the little
emotional
boost this morning when I saw the A+. So thanks to that kid, whoever.
Yeah. So thanks to that kid for uplifting your day.
Yeah, it's a grift, but whatever. I guess the world needs grifters too. Anyway, Zach Dooley, thank you for joining me, Kings fan. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you from DevCamp.